Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. The Indian war hysteria continues. They continue to make unreasonable statements, inflammatory statements. We have remained firm from the very beginning. We've talked about independent inquiry. We've talked about defending ourselves, but we're very firm on the fact that we will retaliate if needed, but that rational attitude should prevail between the two nations, both nuclear powers. We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the threat of blocking our water, which is nothing new but the fact that Pakistan reserves the right to retaliate. I have with me Lieutenant General Raza Muhammad Khan, who's a defense analyst. Thank you for joining us today. Chaudhry Inayatullah, who's consultant UNDP. Thank you for joining us today. And Dr. Mansoor Akbar Kundi, foreign affairs expert. General Sahab, like I said, we are very firm. Our stance has remained the same, very reasonable. We, of course, reserve the right to defend ourselves, and we are fully capable of doing that, which is what our Prime Minister said, followed by the Army. That is exactly what we've been saying. But the kind of unreasonableness and the kind of hysterical, attitude that is coming from across the border, what are the alternatives left as far as we are concerned now?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think today, whatever you heard from the DGISPR, he was actually reinforcing all the decisions and directions of the National Security Committee, right, which was held yesterday. And he elaborated a number of things. I think one thing was made very clear, and that was that our defenses are now, against any external aggressions, are impregnable. Right. And therefore, if any adventure is tried by India or any other enemy of Pakistan, they actually will get a surprise from us. And we will give them a very befitting reply. Right. And probably, the cost will be so heavy that they will not be able to bear it. So that was the kind of message which was communicated, and it was also stated that if they have any actionable intelligence that they need to share with us, they could actually, I'll add to that, they could also share that with the United Nations Military Observers Group, right, who are stationed there in Srinagar. But unfortunately, Indians have kept them under, literally under house arrest, and they are not allowed to come either to the line of control or to such areas, where incidents happen, to come and help in joint interrogations of these incidents. They are actually supposed to report directly to the United Nations Secretary General, but that is not happening. Two other things are important, in this context.
But this kind of hysterical attitude that's coming, the statements that are coming, the inflammatory statements that are, there's no investigation, there's no proof, we're not being given, like I said, like you said, like the Prime Minister said, like the Army is saying, share with us any,
actionable intelligence.
Any actionable intelligence, which hasn't happened because there doesn't seem to be any.
Yeah, there is none, and then, this is the easiest thing to do. This is India's default mode, actually, to immediately blame their own security failures on Pakistan. Right. They should actually carry out their own security audit. You recall that, this used to happen sometimes back in Afghanistan as well. Right. Whatever used to happen, they would first immediately blame Pakistan, right, exactly, and later on do the investigation or interrogation. So the same thing is happening. In this case, the National Investigation Agency of India, they had not even arrived, in Jammu, when they jumped to the conclusion and said that Pakistan is involved in this. So this is ridiculous, and I think this is not going to serve any purpose. I think saner elements in India, they have understood this.
Do you think that there are, I don't want to be as extremist, of course, as India is being, as threatening and as inflammatory, but do you think that the kind of government there is with the elections around the corner, there are saner elements which will speak at this point?
Yes. I would actually name one person, and she is Arundhati Roy. Right. I think 2 days back or 3 days back, she gave an interview to Al Jazeera, and the questioner, asked her if Kashmir should be liberated because the people of Kashmir are asking for liberation from India. Right. But she said, Yes, that may be true or not true, and that may happen or may not happen, but actually it is now India which should get independence from the issue of Kashmir.
Right.
If you recall, in the past, people used to blame Pakistan for its India-centric policies. That is not the case. The opposite has happened now.
Right.
And all Indian policies are now Pakistan-centric, and within that they are all Kashmir-centric, because they have nothing else to offer to the people of India. If they have to talk about development, then they have not done much of development there.
And especially with the Modi government, with the elections around the corner, a lot of it is that, isn't it? The
It is-
hyperbole
is-
that is being
yeah,
created.
Exactly. It is directly related to the elections which are going to happen in April, May.
Right.
And the Modi government has actually communicated to all their lower ranking politicians
That sell this to the
sell
people,
this
if
story,
you can.
their narrative,
Right.
and tell them that Pakistan is responsible for that, because this is actually an election issue, and they won the previous election because of this, and they want to get re-elected on this.
Right, we'll talk more about this. I want to go to Chaudhry Inayatullah, who is a consultant with UNDP. What's this new threat about? Not new, because we've been hearing it off and on. Do you think that India will do it? Do you think that they are what is the position exactly? Where are we as far as our water situation is concerned?
Well, I think this is a very ridiculous statement and very irresponsible statement, given by India. And by giving such a statement, India is by itself, confusing and deceiving its own people, because water in our eastern rivers, for example, Beas and Ravi and Satluj, that is already, stopped by India. There are
Right.
several dams over there. They have
What more
diverted
can
the
they do?
waters. What more they can do?
Right.
Now, the amount of water which is coming to Pakistan in these rivers, particularly in Ravi, that is the water which is coming after the dams and their water headworks. That is the rainfall water, which is coming to Pakistan, and also the seepage water. Now, the gradient of water is towards our side, so nothing can be done. So I think it is just a political
It's just
slogan.
an empty threat that they're trying to make to
Yeah,
satisfy
yeah.
their people again,
Yeah.
because of the situation there, because they have nothing else to do.
Nothing else.
Nothing else to say to them, nothing
Exactly.
else to sell to them. It's more of the same. That's what
Exactly.
you're saying.
That's what in my opinion, they are deceiving their own people. The other thing is that even on our rivers like Chenab, Jhelum, and Indus, what the kind of dams they are thinking and they are planning to do.
Right.
How they can store all this kind of water, heavy amount of water, which is more than very heavy amount of water in Kashmir. They are going to flood the entire Kashmir or Jammu. It is not possible,
Right.
It is not possible. So this is just a political slogan, which is they are trying to get the advantage.
The
Political advantage.
minister has talked of 20% of their own water. Actually,
Yeah.
if you read the tweet, it says that some of it they could not utilize, and now they will utilize it, and they will actually divert it to Punjab and to Kashmir. So it's more of a political statement in my
Yeah,
view.
it is just like I searched through the internet, and what 95% water of these rivers is already utilized by India, and whatever is coming is the overflow.
Right.
And they cannot
So
do
they
with
can't
that,
do anything about the
with that,
overflow.
yeah.
Anyway, I'll come back to you. Dr. Mansoor Akbar Saab, as far as these threats are concerned, as far as talking without proof is concerned, this is not the first time. Do you think that India will get away with it?
I always mention that unfortunately India and Pakistan have got non-endurable bilateralism.
Right.
It's not first. And the blame game, mostly from India, has been going on for almost decades. But what happened on 14 and in repercussion or retaliation, whatever, India has crossed previous limits. And it reflects very negative on its role as a nation state in international law,
Right.
like threatening we stop the water, Yazid like that. Number two, though it's no more non-aligned in pure sense, but it's against its principles of foreign policy, that India is a non-aligned here, threatening that we will retaliate. And third, unfortunately, election ahead, Modi not very certain of its sweeping, it faces challenges
Right.
in many states.
Right.
So that's linked with that. Before coming here, when driving here to the station, I was thinking, very unfortunate, twice in Balochistan, including big blast in police academy training, killed more than 44 people. Pakistan didn't go that revengeful, although many corners loudly claim that India is involved, and India is actively involved in Balochistan.
And Kulbhushan Yadav is a
Yeah,
case in
because-
point. So, I mean, that's not very long
Open,
ago.
open.
Right.
Even the blind, biased people said that he was caught red-handed.
Right, right.
And it was highlighted that day during the trial, that everybody was watching, that Indian lawyer was more defensive, more faceless, because when they pointed out that what he was doing there. So answering your question, I believe India won't do it. Pakistan has got nuclear capability.
Right, and there are irresponsible,
And it's not that easy. And one thing more, even Indian press, many corners in Indian press, including the justice he mentioned, that it will be very sad on Indian part if it does it. It will cause retaliation from Pakistan, and it will do it. And as our Prime Minister mentioned, he is right, I agree with him. No matter whatever differences one have with the government, our government, since its step into power, has been more friendly towards,
Right, there is
India.
Right, I want to talk about that. I'll come back to you. General Saab, he's very right when Mansoor Akbar Saab says that, you know, there is a conciliatory attitude from the point go as far as the new government is concerned. Since the Prime Minister Imran Khan has come in, he's been very conciliatory. He's extended himself. He's tried to, maybe not approach India, but, tried to form the kind of relationship that perhaps will lead to good bilateral relations between the two countries. The Kartarpur corridor itself, that's a huge initiative that we've taken, Pakistan has done. But, this kind of a reaction from India puts us back in, we obviously the army's also said that we will retaliate if needed, and we're fully capable of doing that. But what about our bilateral relations? What kind of a future? Because, like Inayatullah Saab said, unfortunately, the way we are placed, they are our neighbors, and that's a reality for us.
Yes, they are our neighbors, and I think we have the new government. As soon as it was formed, it extended that olive branch to them,
Right.
but they totally rejected it. In fact, they were very contemptuous of these overtures from our side. And some people even blame the government of appeasement, which is not so, because trade between India and Pakistan could actually benefit both countries.
Our rationality is actually, I think, viewed by them as a weakness.
As a weakness, that is right. And look at what they've done now, that they've imposed 200% sort of duties on your imports,
Right.
which is going to hurt them more than it could hurt Pakistan. Because our total trade volume is about $2 billion or so. Out of that, I think we export only about $200 to $300 million worth stuff to India, and the rest is their things coming to Pakistan. So they're going to get more
Lose out,
hurt.
right.
In addition to that, their transit trade to Afghanistan, whether it is through the sea route or through the air route, that is going to be severely curtailed, let me tell you. Because I think our government is also contemplating on responding to that issue. Two other things I'd like to point out. One is regarding this Central Reserve Police Force of India. They are actually known as the encounter specialists. There are about 70,000 such forces in Kashmir alone, and they have dozens and dozens of checkposts where they actually perpetrate barbarities over the Kashmiris, and they are the ones who are actually having these pellet guns. and they are directly responsible for blinding over 2,000 people and severely injuring 6,300 people. So you saw, the reaction from the Kashmiris who
Right.
went against them, and the Pulwama incident happened. The other thing is, now
But do you think that's part of the reaction? I mean, because they are seeing this, the kind of reaction they are seeing from the Kashmiris, the way it's building up.
Yeah.
the
this is
way
what I
that-
said. This is a reaction.
Right. So
This
so
is
they
a reaction from the Kashmiris, to their.
But that reaction
Which
itself
they
has
are ignoring this,
Right.
this factor they are ignoring. They even don't want to mention single word about that it happened in the midst of Kashmir, which is densely military deployed and where resistance going on, and it can happen in any part of the world where such atrocities going on, and there can be retaliation. I agree. I
Right.
agree.
Can
that-
I complete this argument?
I'll come back to you. We've
Yeah.
also been joined by Khurshid Mahmood Kasuri Saab, who's a former foreign minister. Thank you for joining us, Kasuri Saab. How do you see the situation as far as India is concerned? Clearly, we have demonstrated to them that we are going to respond. We are fully capable of responding, but that, their rational attitude should prevail between the two countries. But this is not the first time that India has turned around and blamed Pakistan.
As Pakistan has first said that it would like to resolve it peacefully. It would want an investigation conducted. But if India is not prepared, then Pakistan has made it quite clear that it will not be browbeaten. And in fact, if you look at the reaction of various countries, India continues to say that 50 or 60 countries are supporting. What are they supporting? What they are saying is that they condemn the attack in Pulwama. The Foreign Office of Pakistan has said that. As far as international support is concerned, even the Security Council, Pakistan was not named despite efforts by India. Reasons are quite clear. That recently the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees brought out a report which catalogued the human rights violations that are being inflicted upon the hapless people of Kashmir. So as far as the international situation is concerned, I don't think India has succeeded in mobilizing opinion against Pakistan as it had claimed repeatedly and is telling its people that it has isolated Pakistan. Nothing of the sort has happened. But Pakistan, of course, like any sovereign country, whereas it wants a peaceful resolution and it has offered that, the Prime Minister has offered that, and then the Cabinet Committee on Security has offered that, reserves the right to defend itself. And I think India must get a clear message as far as this is concerned.
Right, but do you think the kind of response that is coming from India, it's certainly very irresponsible. It's not the first time. Kulbhushan Yadav is a case in point, whereas India has nothing that they're basing these allegations on without proof. And the Prime Minister said that, if there is any proof, please share it with us, share actionable intelligence with us. This reaction, do you think it's part of the fact that, there is elections around the corner, like we talked about, that Modi is trying to sell this to the people? Do you think part of this war hysteria is created because of this?
Absolutely no doubt about it, that part of it, or a large part of it, in fact, the situation that has fueled Kashmir uprising even more is the attitude of the BJP towards Muslims generally. The BJP has, for purposes of this election, tried to polarize public opinion in India along Hindu-Muslim lines and Pakistan against India, and link that to the lynching of Muslims for allegedly eating cow meat, and everything falls in place. So this is not something that's happened recently. There's a reaction to that in Kashmir, because Kashmir is overwhelmingly Muslim. So and then the human rights violations in Kashmir not started recently. They've been on since 1997. That is 22 years. And India wishes to turn attention away of the international community from gross violation of human rights, and would like the world to believe that Pakistan is doing all this, whereas now there's no doubt that overwhelmingly it is the Indians themselves, the Kashmiris themselves, who are carrying on this struggle.
But they can't sell this to the world anymore, can they? I mean, like you said, the kind of reaction that's coming from most of the people, most of the countries, is that, you know, they actually can see the reality for what it is. The kind of propaganda that is coming from India, it's clear now. Isn't that true?
It's true, but we'll have to do much more. And we'll also have to put our own house in order. And I'm glad that the government and the Pakistan army are aware of it. They've already taken the first steps in North Waziristan. And the statements coming out of the Cabinet Committee on Security are very timely, will deprive India of whatever ammunition it has left against Pakistan. It tries to mislead international opinion by referring to actions in the past, when admittedly certain actions did take place in Afghanistan, but that was fully in connivance with the United States of America. And U.S. was, in fact, if you have to talk of one country which created extremism, which helped extremism, it's not just in Afghanistan, in many other countries of the world. Pakistan was, yes, a casualty, and Pakistan has paid the price, and it's got 70,000 dead. And then Pakistan army, by rendering, I think, 7,000 martyrs, they liberated North Waziristan, which is known as the capital of the terrorists all over the world. What more can Pakistan do? And also towards other agencies or organizations which are non-state actors, the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, government has taken very concrete actions.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Kasuri. Thank you for being with us. General Sahab, put our own house in order. What more do you think we can do at our end to maybe tell the world? You know, of course the world knows, but we need the kind of reaction we need from the world. What do we do?
I think we have already done a lot, and it is others who need to do more, and I'll give you specific examples.
Okay.
In India, you know, you have the various branches of the RSS, and one is the VHP and the other is the Bajrang Dal. They are both terrorist organizations. They were declared terrorists in 1948 because they killed Mahatma Gandhi. They're the ones, the RSS killed Mahatma Gandhi. And later on, when Indira Gandhi was in power, for 3 or 4 years, they declared these organizations as terrorist organizations. Unfortunately, right now, the BJP and Mr. Modi himself and the Indian government, they are actually now an extension of the RSS itself. That is the real problem. And the world actually needs to understand that they need to be banned in India by the United Nations, by the United States and all others who are actually telling us to ban this party or that party. We on our side are doing whatever is possible under the National Action Plan. I think there are many proscribed organizations. You mentioned of the LET and you made a mention of the JEM. They are proscribed organizations.
Right.
And although there are no proofs against them, not even an iota of proof with the United States, with the UN or with India, yet you know, because the United Nations proscribed them, so we had to proscribe them too. So that is important to know. The other thing is that, look, you know, I think previously we made a mention of the Indian surgical strikes. I think we had a number of reasons actually to undertake surgical strikes against India.
Right.
Because whatever Kulbhushan Yadav has said, whatever he has been doing against the CPEC, whatever he has done in Balochistan, whatever India has done against the Chinese consulate in Karachi, what it's been doing, Kasuri Sahib made a mention, you know, of terrorists in North Waziristan. They were all sponsored by India. Most of them were sponsored by India. They were armed by them. They were actually facilitated by them. So we actually, we flushed them out from there, and we are continuing to implement the National Action Plan to the best of our abilities, despite our meager resources. We are doing that. And I think the world needs to come and help and assist us, because we need money for that. We have this fence made in Afghanistan, and we have now proposed to Iran as well that we need to actually fence that border so that no terrorists can go from this side and no terrorists can come from that side. India has multiple layers of fencing, on Kashmir. That fence is actually patrolled 24 hours, and they have drones flying on top of that. It is observed through the satellite. It's impossible for anyone actually to come from our side to their side.
Right.
Yet they are blaming us, for infiltration. So it is actually ridiculous.
I think we've come to a point where anything happens in India, they
Yes.
blindly,
Yes.
blame Pakistan and the world.
And as General Sahab mentioned,
Right.
somebody was telling me, I myself visited this Narowal Kartarpur area. They have got technology from Israel, and they're more sensitive. Something hits them, bell starts ringing on the border. Then, I mean, they are more sensitive and blaming us. We have not secured our border that much as they have.
Right.
And one thing more, that this whole border is fenced.
It
So
is fenced and electrified.
no,
There is electricity.
electrified, and they have got one device.
Yeah.
Sometime an animal, when it hits that, starts ringing and flashing. There's something new technology.
But the question for us now is that, as far as, General Saab is concerned, that we have done enough. I think we can come to that conclusion. As far as Pakistan is concerned, we've always extended ourselves. Like I said, this government, when the Prime Minister came, we've always, through our successive governments, we have extended ourselves. We've tried to reach, a kind of a working relationship with a neighbor from across the border. But that is impossible when we get this kind of reaction again and
This
again.
kind of reaction, Pakistan, unfortunately, again, sort of blame game. If something happens, international pressure from America, India is included that, but mostly from America, do more, do more. They're like Pakistan is behind all these conspiracies or these actions or whatever you call it. But they don't India should be told, you do more, at least improve human rights violation. Like General Saab mentioned, pellets, guns,
Right.
they are prohibited. If you read Guerrilla Warfare
Right.
by Che Guevara or all other leading books on warfare, pellet guns are prohibited. And even in our tribal rivalry, when they kill each other and they exchange of firing, pellet guns not used.
But as
They
far
are
as-
using it in Kashmir
Right, but-
against innocent people.
Which is a
children.
known fact, but we don't see the kind of reaction from the world that we should be seeing. That's
We
the
should
problem.
highlight it. We should highlight it, and it's highlighted. This Kalbhushan case, when going on in Hague,
Right.
many things indirectly and directly highlighted.
Right. So you
That
think
India is itself a terrorist state, and India is trying its best to muddy water in Pakistan through different circles.
Right, like and like Inayatullah Sahib is saying, as far as even the water threat is concerned, it's an empty threat. It's just what is it? Is it playing to the galleries again? It is just satisfy their own people, right?
Yeah, you see, the thing is, I was surfing at the internet just before coming to this show, and I was really pleased that there are so many thousands and hundreds and thousands of Indians who really, regretted on this particular statement. They say that this is an inhumanitarian act, and it will lead India to so many other problems, because India is sharing water with Nepal and Bangladesh. They will also lose their confidence on India,
Right.
and also whatever India is doing this way, it is giving an example for Chinese to build more dams on Brahmaputra in Tibet. So it is going to backfire on India anyway.
Right.
And the other thing is that very very important point which General Saab was mentioning before, on the trade side. You see, we have been threatened, and rather it is in the media that the trade of tomato and other things, vegetables, have been stopped towards Pakistan. I would say this is a blessing for Pakistan. It's a blessing for Pakistan because it happened in 2018, And our farmers of Swat area and all the Swabi, Mardan, Swat area, they were so extremely happy. And there were reports that they were saying that they had been able to clear their debts which were lying on them for the last 5 years, because Indian market, India is providing so much of subsidy on fertilizer, water,
Right.
and so many things, and their market price is much cheaper than Pakistan. So it gave an opportunity for us, for our farmers from Balochistan and KP to provide the goods, provide these things, vegetables to Punjab and Karachi as well. So it is a blessing. We as the agriculture experts,
And like General Saab is saying, they will lose out more. Of course.
they are the losers. In fact, they are the losers. And it is just a political slogan which they have given to their people, that we will do this and this, but they can't do it really on reality. They know very well that we are also equally prepared, and we are more prepared than that.
Ji,
Because
Mansoor Saab.
And even these slogans you can interrelate with the coming election. Many things the
Right,
Modi government is doing, they fall below accepted standard of diplomacy. Diplomacy, even if you oppose a country, there are certain norms here. Now, like saying that we will stop tomatoes export to that country and we stop the water. For example, you say we stop water. It's under international agreement, part of international law. Treaties are major source of international law. So if you violate a treaty, it means you are violating the rudimentary principles of international law. And one thing more, I also tell you that if you, being a professor of international relation, theoretically, if you define nation statehood, Pakistan and India don't have good relation, but Pakistan has never gone to that extent against
exactly.
the nation statehood of India. They have, not now, even before. Like what they are doing now looks that they don't cannot tolerate the nation statehood of Pakistan.
Right.
Pakistan is a nation state, a strong country, and it will grow more stronger, has got strong army.
right.
It
Ji,
is in
General Saab.
it is in position to retaliate.
Right.
You were talking of the policies of the Western countries and the United States in particular. Let me add that there is a direct relationship of peace between India and Pakistan with peace in Afghanistan. Most of our attention in terms of surveillance, intelligence, troop deployment has been now on the Western Front. And you therefore saw a modicum of stability there, and they were involved, in North and South Waziristan and FATA and Swat and elsewhere. But when this kind of incident happens, then obviously it shifts our attention from the western borders to our eastern front.
Right.
And therefore, instability in Afghanistan increases. Therefore, I say that it is in the interest of the West and the United States, because the West has 37 countries are there, they are stuck up in Afghanistan for the last 18 years. If Pakistan had a free hand, if there was no threat on our eastern border, probably, we could have actually spared more resources for the protection of the western borders and for ensuring peace in Afghanistan, but that was not possible. And these kinds of incidents makes it much more difficult for us. First point.
But the kind of reaction that we are looking, again, I want to, that kind of reaction, that kind of sanity, it's not coming, that voice of sanity is not coming from the West.
So I would say, that this is their short-sightedness. And in that, I think the United Nations, our embassies abroad, the Pakistani diaspora, and we have a very large diaspora, the Kashmiri diaspora.
Perhaps when Mr. Kasuri talks about, clearing our own house, putting our own house in order, perhaps he means that we need to extend ourselves to that kind of to the Western audience, so that they can actually, take notice of what's happening.
Absolutely,
as far
that
as
is
coming
required.
across from India.
Let me say, I've stayed for quite some time in the United States, and let me tell you that, the US politicians, and I'm particularly talking of senators and congressmen, I think they need to be invited to come and, have people to people, politician to politician contact, and they should come and probably stay for a number of days and see what we are doing, to curb terrorism and other things. Also, let me very clearly say that right now the United Nations is very dormant, It is their primary responsibility. There are United Nations resolutions, a number of them on Kashmir.
That India has clearly flouted.
They've flouted, and they're looking, to now have a permanent seat. How is that possible? Pakistan still has an option, to take this issue back to the United Nations, because Indians are saying that they have the instrument of accession with them. This is a lie. So far, they do not have any authenticated, genuine, original document which can be, given to the United Nations
as evidence.
as evidence. Okay, and secondly, they were the ones, who took the Kashmir issue to the United Nations. So these are some facts and figures which Pakistan can take back to the United Nations. India is saying that we took the case there under Chapter 6 of the United Nations, which is mainly related to mediations and nothing more than that. But Pakistan can make an effort to take it back to the Security Council under Chapter 7, which is the mandatory sort of a thing for plebiscite. And if that doesn't happen, then at least it can take it back to the General Assembly.
Right.
Because in the case of Palestine and other places, the General Assembly is there. There is no veto there. So it can be taken to the General Assembly.
What about all these irresponsible statements as far as our nuclear power is concerned? We've said, the DGI ISPR has also said that, we're a nuclear nation. Everyone knows that, and we need to exercise some responsibility there as far as India is concerned when issuing these statements.
I agree with you, and it's unfortunate. India, being a nation state, a diplomatic power, is a leading democracy, but whatever it's showing here is very revengeful, below accepted diplomatic norms.
Right.
And sad to say like that, even it's mean of the government. It's like a cheap thing of the government doing it. But again, many circles, including myself, they say that it's greatly related to coming election. And one thing more, it's happening at the time when hopes of peace are rising in Afghanistan. And America.
And like General Saab said, when this sort of thing happens, then of course the situation in Afghanistan also destabilizes.
And they say, Pakistan playing very active and positive role in bringing peace to Afghanistan. And America needs that. And one thing more, like General Saab mentioned, international media and mission people be brought here, and they should be shown what Pakistan is doing. Honestly, I come from that area.
Right.
Now you go there during the last 1.5 years, they have fenced all border. So what else we can do more? And then simultaneously, they be taken to that occupied side of Kashmir and shown that what India is doing there. I mean,
the US government is still shut because they have not been given the money for fencing their border with Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have done it with our own resources. So actually, they should be patting us.
There's the prime and big example of doing more.
Right.
No, I mean, what else we can do? I mean, we don't have those resources that we can buy, drown, and then they go for surveillance all the time.
I think
Right.
the resources, kind of heavy amount of resources which India is putting on all these security measures at the India-Pakistan border and all whatever the forces, all the expenses which they are doing in Kashmir, they should think more sensibly and satisfy their own people, and they should utilize this amount of money for the poverty alleviation in their own country. I mean,
instead of, of course, spending it needlessly.
I mean, look at the health indicators and the education indicators and the income level indicators. I mean, these are all poor. I mean, India is a big democracy, big country, 10 times bigger than that, but it is lagging behind on so many other indicators. So they should focus more on human development, and they should encourage, for this area, SAARC region. I mean, why don't they come forward and make a SAARC food bank, for example? And so many other things they can join together. They should join hands with us on climate change adaptation, they must share us their data on climate and water with us so that we can plan our system properly.
Right.
But I mean, it is a absolutely irresponsible, I would say, childish policy which particularly this Indian government is pursuing, and they are being criticized by their own people. I mean.
But why, and again and again, if they continue to blame us, if they do have the evidence, we've repeatedly asked, why don't they share it with us?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, blame game has become part of their foreign policy towards Pakistan, I tell you. And to some extent, previously Sri Lanka, to some extent Bangladesh, but largely Pakistan. Number two, Imran Khan mentioned that if you have grievances, if you have proof, share with us.
Right, exactly.
The major proof is this cultivation which we are sharing with them.
We have,
And
yes, of
whole
course.
international media, and they are at least they are showing, people are watching what's going on. But when they are told that you share with us,
They have nothing to
they
share with us,
sheerly
right.
fail to do so.
Right, exactly.
And on Kulbhushan Singh issue, for example, I would say, I mean, this is really very premature or very sort of a low level of thinking. Instead of agreeing with Pakistan, they have gone to International Court of Justice.
Right.
And every day, for the last 2 years, this issue is being discussed in the international matters, and everybody is disgracing India on this particular subject.
So we have, the Shimla agreement with India. They have discarded the Shimla agreement.
Good.
And the Shimla agreement again very clearly says that all disputed contentious issues between the two
Yeah.
countries
Right.
have to be solved under the United Nations Charter. They've actually discarded their own agreement in that.
And in Shimla agreement, one thing more, General Saab very much right, and it was mentioned in Shimla agreement that without involving third party, international mediation, international interference, whatever, we have to sit together
Right. But
and mutually agree. But Pakistan now telling them, let's sit.
there's no question of
You
that.
know-
They're just not willing to do that.
You know, it's sad, doesn't matter whoever is killed, human killing is very sad. But what happened, this has happened many times across the border in our country. And we didn't go, again I repeat, we didn't go that revengeful, they have done it now. So they can sit, Pakistan offered them, you share with us and you can sit. But again, India, they say tail I win and head you lose.
Right.
So
Kashmir
that
is
policy
now-
going
can I-
on.
You have time?
Right, and just barely, yes.
So Kashmir is now today the most militarized region in the world,
Yeah.
with one Indian soldier imposed on 20 Kashmiris. And the cost of, let's say, retaining 1 million soldiers for the last 70 years, I think they need to actually calculate that.
Right.
Is it really worth keeping? And for economic reasons
They
alone.
need to reevaluate themselves.
And spend
Is it
that
worth
money
it
on
for
human
them?
development.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us, Lieutenant General Raza Muhammad Khan. Thank you for being with us. Chaudhry Inayatullah, thank you for joining us today. Dr. Mansoor Akbar Kundi, thank you for being with us today. India remains as blatant as far as their conspiracies against Pakistan is concerned, as far as their involvement in terrorism against Pakistan is concerned. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, we're very clear. If they do have the proof, then they should share it with us. If they do have actionable intelligence, share it with us. Otherwise, Pakistan will retaliate and can retaliate. It has the full capacity to do so. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.